untold tensions between Eddie Brock and the symbiote, as well as that bombshell announcement from last issue. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is an irate review where I go over a comic book, and the one I want to talk about right now is Venom number 12. So, written by Donny, this has actually explored a lot of different avenues of Eddie Brock and the relationship between him and his symbiote, and we get a bombshell announcement from Venom number 11, which has repercussions for issue number 12. So let's recap, and let's see what this new issue has to offer. Over the last few issues, Eddie Brock has been facing down the demons of his past, and as we open up on issue number 12, we actually get some awareness. We get a little bit more information regarding how he actually had a son. We see Anne standing on a doorstep in San Francisco, and the person that answers the door is Carl, Eddie's father. And after the bonding between Eddie and Anne, which took place ages ago in various storylines, we actually see how he had the ability to have a son. They didn't even, she's not really sure what happened. She just knows that this monster has lived inside her head. She feels like she's losing her mind. She can't take care of Dylan, this young child, so she entrusts this precious bundle to the only man that she ever really considered family, and that was Carl, even though we've seen how much of an asshole Carl can be in the past of these few issues. And remember, Eddie is still inside a containment field trying to forcibly separate from the symbiote. What we learned inside issue number 11 is that the symbiote was responsible for every single cancer scare, every bit of paranoia that Eddie has ever really felt. It is the ability to modify brain chemistry, to modify memories, to pull them out or implant them, to manipulate Eddie in whatever way that it can, so that way it maintains the relationship. And while the Maker is trying to diagnose this cancer that he has coming back, it's really just Eddie realizing that these memories are implants and that this has really broken the trust that they had between the two. The symbiote and Eddie are currently at odds, and finally, as it's sensing the separation, it casts itself out of the containment field, knocks the power supply, and causes the entire room to explode, leaving fire and smoke, and then you just see Eddie's hand. This isn't the end, because Dylan was taken by Carl as he tried to run away, and now they're in a car headed across the Golden Gate Bridge, and Carl is about to smack him across the face as if he needed another black eye to go with the one on the right-hand side. But that is not the end of it. Looking in the rearview mirror, he sees Venom as he picks up the car and is holding it there. He is not going to let Carl escape with his son. He finally realized that this is his boy and somebody that he needs to take care of. So as he holds him there, crushing his windpipe in his hands, he just pours the symbiote into his eyes, and then Carl is a captive. He's inside this prison cell. He's handcuffed to the chair, very much like the interrogation that we saw in an earlier issue. With Eddie standing in front of him, it's a bit of a role reversal. The power is on the other side of the table. And while Carl insists that his son is a monster, that he doesn't have a son, Eddie just bursts out with the Venom symbiote and smashes the table across the side of the wall. He is here, and he realizes that he's a monster. He was made a monster by his father, but every day he tries to do something better, to be better, which is why Carl's not dead and 6 feet on the ground. As he gets released from this situation, as he tries to be the better person, Carl just comes back. It's just like, hey, Dylan is a good kid. He's like you used to be. You used to be a good kid. You used to go to church. What happened? Why don't you believe in God anymore? And we know from the previous issues that Eddie has met God, at least the symbiote God, and that guy's an asshole. Now we are in a situation where Eddie is laying down the law to Carl. If Carl comes near Dylan, if he comes towards Eddie, if anything happens, Eddie's going to take his son, and Carl is going to be dead. End of story, no negotiation. And Carl wakes up in the desert as if his consciousness had been shut down and he'd been carted out into the middle of nowhere and left for dead. And that's where we kind of end the story with Carl. Venom is currently carrying Dylan. We find ourselves back in the hospital, smoke still billowing from the rooms, fire still spreading, all these various guards on the edge of the hallway, and Dylan just like, hey, why are you leaving me? And it's not Eddie that speaks, it's the symbiote. You're better off without us. Both of you are better off without us, without me. And that is a really interesting step, because we finally reveal that Eddie hadn't really acted in any of this. All the stuff inside the subconscious, every action that it took, hunting down Dylan on the Golden Gate Bridge, everything was taken in the best interest of Eddie by the symbiote, the kind of cementing the relationship, the emotional connection that they really had. And when Eddie finally wakes up, he finds the symbiote gone, the Maker all tied up in various symbiote strings and web, but the symbiote is nowhere to be found. And outside, in the streets of San Francisco, it assumes the look of a human individual and makes its way into the nothingness. And that's where we're going to transition into Venom number 13. Cullen Bunn is going to be taking over, and he's going to be writing a War of the Realms tie-in that is going to probably enhance the symbiote in some way. Because as we saw in previous issues, the symbiote becomes more powerful, it gets more enhancements as it kind of combines itself with other members of the Clintar race, which is what Null was really trying to achieve. And this is going to be an interesting interesting dynamic because it allows Eddie to grow in the background with Dylan, build that relationship, build that rapport. It allows Donny Cates as a writer to really move off of the book and develop something, and we feel that he's going to be doing a huge event for Venom coming the August timeframe and on, and that's going to be a really serious thing. As far as the art, I really like the art style. It's not quite Ryan Stegman because Ryan Stegman is really solid on this book. I love his presentation. His action always feels dynamic, but overall it's a welcome substitute even though Stegman couldn't take over. The combination of the colors and the way that everything was rendered, I love the seriousness in it, but I feel like it still could be just a touch better with a slightly different artist. However, it's not going to keep me from reading the book, but I want to know what you guys think, so hit me up in the comments down below and we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books and more.